So, tell me, Big Mac, what army do you collect?
Orcs. How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dancehall here again today for episode 6 of Warhammer Thoughty. This video is about hobby focus and the lack of hobby focus that I in particular have. If you ask me, as you saw in the clip at the start, what army I collected, it's not just Eldar and Orcs, it's Eldar, Orcs, Grey Knights. I have a Dark Eldar Start Collecting box, or not the Start Collecting, the Battle Force actually. Harlequins, I mean, Eldar, Dark Eldar and Harlequins, that's not so bad, they all go together. But then I've got, I think I mentioned Grey Knights, I may not have though, Grey Knights. I've got a small amount of Chaos miniatures, I've got some Space Wolves miniatures, I've got some Imperial Knights, I've got Sisters of Battle, I've got Pre-Heresy Thousand Suns, I've even got some Tau that are just in the box, sat there, waiting to be built and painted. I've got some Genestealer Cult, but technically that's a board game, so does that count? I'd say probably. I've got some Blood Angels, Terminators, and I bought a couple of Start Collecting boxes with Blood Angels in. So anyway, the list goes on. Hobby focus and lack of hobby focus. Now, I've spoken about this before in previous videos, so if you've seen them videos and you don't fancy watching this one, feel free to stop it right there. I don't mind. Hobby focus is a really important thing. If there was one piece of advice I could give to someone who is just starting in the hobby, maybe, you know, taking the first steps into the hobby, I'd say find an army that you like the look of, you think you're going to enjoy building and painting, because that is the bulk of the hobby. There's gaming as well, obviously. You can just build your models and not get them painted, but I think most people prefer to play against painted armies. Find an army that you like the look of, and have a look at the rules maybe online, what people say about how they play and stuff, and maybe get an idea of how you're gonna, if you're going to enjoy their play style for that army, and then weigh up your options before you delve into anything. I tend to get drawn in by shiny new stuff. Thankfully recently I've done a real slowdown on miniatures, I tend to get drawn in by shiny new stuff, or when there's a re-release of an army, or a slight update to rules, new codex, something like that. I look at it and I'm like, oh, I need it. I've mentioned it in previous 40k videos as well. And so one thing I'd say is just focus on an army. That's the single piece of advice I'd probably give to a new hobbyist. Stick to one army if you can. If that's what you want from the hobby, if you want to be able to take an army down to Games Workshop or your friendly local gaming store week after week, then focus on one force. Start with maybe a kill team size force or Start Collecting force, which is, I think the Start Collecting force, they're around 500 points. Get a Start Collecting force, because they do them for most of the factions now in 40k. They even do them for Death Watch. They released one of them a month or two ago for the Death Watch. And focus on that, get that built and painted, learn that army, learn to play that army, learn that army like the back of your hand, basically. Learn it till you know it like the back of your hand, and then you'll get, I feel like you'll get more from the hobby than I do in many respects. Now, the hobby for me is mainly about building and painting miniatures, so really I don't need to focus on one army. However, I do like to play now and again, and when I want to play my Eldar but I've not got enough of them built or painted for a decent battle, then it's really frustrating. And one of the side effects of having loads of miniatures, so let's do a brief history lesson here, history of the Big Mac. Now, before the Big Mac was the Big Mac was Daniel. He was a 12-year-old boy, and he walked into Games Workshop Stockport and was just drawn in by the Eldar. There was a few there was very few vehicles in the game back then, and it was around the time the Viper jet bike came out, and I was just like, whoa, it's a floating jet bike that's got guns on it, and these aliens are like elves, like Vulcans, pointy ears. They focus on one thing. They're more athletic than humans. They're tall, slim. Just the whole aesthetic of the miniatures, even back then, when miniature sculptures were not like they are today. I just really like the sculptures back then of the Eldar compared to a lot of the other races. The poses were, not very dynamic, but they were more dynamic than, say, a Space Marine or a Chaos Space Marine. You looked at Orcs back then, most of the miniatures were they looked funny, really basic, like goblin-y like almost sometimes. And there was nothing like Tau. The Necrons hadn't been released when I was first getting into it. Had they been released, I may have got into Necrons heavily, because when they were first released, the Necron Raiders, I went out and bought a box of them. And I found them really easy to paint as well. When I was struggling with my Eldar because I wanted to paint them well, but I didn't have the patience at the time to paint them. So yeah, that was back then. And then around about the time the Lord of the Rings trilogy of films came out, the first one came out, Fellowship of the Ring, and then I read the Lord of the Rings books. And the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, I think it was called, went into Games Workshop, and I'd left the hobby behind at that stage, but round about my 17th birthday, I think I wandered back into Games Workshop, maybe in Stockport, maybe in Manchester, I'm not sure. I wandered back in and saw that they did the Lord of the Rings miniatures, and I bought a box of them and I started collecting them. That almost got me back into the hobby, and then I walked away again, and then I worked in Tesco, which is a supermarket in the UK for any overseas viewers, and then they sold White Dwarf, and I saw the front cover had Harlequins on at one stage. I was like, oh my god, they look amazing. They were so much better than the Harlequins when I was a 12-year-old. So I went out and bought Harlequins, and I almost got back into it then. But anyway, long story short, I got back into it properly, and my friend encouraged me to get into playing Orcs, because he'd always kind of seen me as an Orc player, kind of a brutish guy, and quite simplistic in my view of warfare, not really suited to Eldar, because the Eldar are all about focus, and if you're playing an aspect warrior army, you've got to use each aspect temple, so striking scorpions, warp spiders, swooping orcs, you've got to use them to their strength basically. So it's a little more, orcs are kind of finesse really, because they're so hard to win with against any sort of competitive list. But anyway, the orcs just kind of come across as brutish but fun as well, because you can do your own conversions and stuff like that. So then I got into orcs, and then when I got back into the hobby properly, I collected orcs, and then the Grey Knights were relaunched, I think, and I really liked the Grey Knight miniatures. I've kind of gone off them now, but I went out and bought some Grey Knight miniatures off eBay, because it was a really good deal. It was like £250, £300 force for £110, I think I got it. It's like, yes. And then I still had all my old Eldar miniatures. I had these Orc miniatures that I'd been purchasing over time. Some from Games Workshop, some from eBay, just snapping up here and there everywhere. And then I had some really old Orc miniatures from the 2nd edition box set, starter set kind of thing, where you got Space Marines and Orcs, and really basic poses and stuff. And I worked out at one stage that I had, without even buying many Orcs, I had a couple of thousand points of Orcs, mainly boys and stuff. And they were all unpainted, unbuilt, so that's a lot of painting to do, and it does become really discouraging. So then, after the Grey Knights, there was new Eldar released, new Wraith constructs and stuff, so I had to buy them. But I've still got all my old Eldar unpainted, mostly. So now I've got probably 3,000 points of Eldar, most of it's unpainted. And yeah, you get where I'm going with this anyway. The more stuff you have unpainted, I think the harder it is to motivate yourself to get it painted. Thankfully, like I said, now I'm a lot more. I've got more self-control now at the minute, anyway. Now I'm still buying books and stuff, so I've been buying the Gathering Storm books. I've got the first 2 of them, and you may know that from watching previous videos, I've got Betrayal at Calth and Burning of Prospero, because I'm doing 1,000 Suns Legion. I've not started on that yet, other than this guy here. I just did a test paint scheme. I don't actually think I'm going to stick with this paint scheme. I'm going to go slightly different. Looks a little bit pinkish with the light reflecting off it, doesn't it? But this is GW's clear red over Retributor armour. But I'm going to go with Angron red over the silver spray from GW. Can't remember the name of it at the minute. Lead Belcher? Maybe. Which is the Forge World Tiscan Ruby colour scheme. So yeah, today I bought another book, which was the Legioness Astartes Crusade Army List or something like that, and I pre-ordered the Inferno book because that's what I need to build my 1,000 Suns army. Yeah, and at the minute you can see the only thing I'm working on is my Cerestus Knight Castigator. That's for Nick's New Year Painting Challenge. That's the only thing I'm working on at the minute. So I am being quite focused at the minute, and I think if you become more focused and methodical, paint what you've got. There was a really good video series done, I think, last year by Crew Angelus Silicis. I think that's his name. Mike is his name. Crew Angelus Silicis, and he did a paint what you've got, don't buy what you want series. Now, I don't think I'm strict enough on myself to be able to do that. Not buy miniatures at all. If there's something that comes out and I really want it, I probably will end up buying it. I'm an Eldar collector and player. Well, not so much player recently. I've not played Eldar for ages, but I'm an Eldar collector definitely. And the Gathering Storm 2 stuff is, connected to the Eldar. But thankfully, I don't like the aesthetic of the miniatures too much. The Avatar of Iliad, the Incarn, I don't love that. The Vizark I kind of really like. He's got a silent authority about him. And Ivrain, she's kind of cool looking. She's got the Gyrinx with her, cool. But I didn't get so excited that I had to go out and buy them straight away. I was actually more impressed with the Triumvirate of the Imperium miniatures, and I could put them into one of my Imperial armies, but my Imperial army needs to get built and painted. So yeah, that's why I'm doing well not buying stuff at the minute. And like I said, if there was any piece of advice I could give to people just getting into the hobby, it'd be buy a set, paint a set, and then buy another set maybe. Buy a start collecting set. They're £50. Like I said, you get about £500 points worth of miniatures in them. Get them built and painted to a decent standard, and then maybe think about buying another squad. Speak to someone in the game store and get some advice off fellow gamers. See what they think you need in your army next. People who play the same army, especially. See what they think you need in your army next, and then go from there. Start with something small and build up from that. Start with a good foundation. It's like building a house, really, building an army. Start with a good foundation and build up from that. I know, like the Eldar Start Collecting box, it's got, I think, a Fire Prism or Night. Is it Night Spinner Grav Tank? I can't remember. Yeah, it's got a Fire Prism. It's got 3 jet bikes and a Warlock or Farseer on jet bikes. So it's a really good base to start with for like a jet bike spam list, basically. It's a decent semi-competitive little list, which is really cool. Or if you wanted to go down the Allies route, you can go with multiple start collecting boxes. Say you went start collecting Eldar, start collecting Dark Eldar, and there's something else. Whatever. You get what I'm talking about anyway. I hope you do anyway. If you don't, just tell me I need to be more concise in these videos. I think sometimes I do. This one's gone on a lot longer than I intended it to. I thought it was going to be a 5-minute video, but then I started talking about my history in collecting. So yeah, one piece of advice I've got for new gamers: start small, build on that. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield.